Hi there folks, Steve here, taking you for another little walk and another day in the forest. Lovely place to come out for a walk. I could make a video at home and stuff, but I think it's for me a lovely time to be on my own, to have a little bit of that solitude and to take time with you, the viewer. Free my mind, document my thoughts as well in the meantime, but I've got you in mind. And it's nice to come out on my own and think about everybody from a distance. I've spent a lot of my life, to slow down the pace a little, spent a lot of my life with people. And, when I left school, I lived in bed-sits, like shared houses. And you always had to deal with the problems of your other housemates, at the age of 17, 18, 19. Some into music and some into drugs and some into both, and dancing and art and crime and everything all mixed in, all these like teenage years of madness in these shared houses. And somehow there seems to be some kind of law, shared house rules, usually. People generally seem to find ways of getting on, especially if there's a couple of sensible people in the party to kind of keep the wheels greased, so to speak. Somebody in a group who has leadership skills, who can keep his attention while others are overwhelmed by maybe madness or stupidity. Well, back in those old bed-sit days, on those old shared house days, there was no real common aim. Unless somebody was coming to repossess the house, then suddenly all of the people were best friends, let's squat this house or whatever. But there was no shared interest. The people generally argued, and talked about each other behind their backs. There was a lot of intrigue going on. And I played guitar and I joined a band. And it was completely different, really, because, in a band, you've got your own parts, me as a guitar player, and you've got then the drummer, the bass player, the singer, maybe keyboards, maybe other guitarists, other instruments, other musicians, all playing together in harmony. And even the crew, doing the sound, and the light engineer, and the driver, and even people who just used to sit and roll the joints for everybody and pass around the beers. All of these people was considered having as an important job, including the couple of people who were invited in to sit on chairs and listen and give their opinion to the song before it was played at the next gig. Anybody in that musical field was almost a part of this invisible force, this invisible dream, this shared thing, which would be united in a tune, in a hymn almost. Each person has their own voice, own part. So it's very apparent in a rock and roll band how a community kind of works, especially when you're on tour and you've got you've got band and crew. Just a small setup we had. 5 musicians, a lighting engineer, sound engineer. I think that was all we went out on tour as first, and little places. And it was great fun to know that we was a team. It wasn't really about who was playing on stage or who had the most credibility or anything. It was a team. And everybody knew that everybody had played a part in that team, even though some people were kind of labelled as being the most competent masterminds of the whatever. it wasn't ever like that. The mastermind just did what he could with the team. So, the mastermind or the leader or whatever was simply somebody who needed his lads and lasses to work with him. But it's a joint effort. And I think this living in tribes, you've got to eat together and sleep, sometimes together maybe. And, you've got to find sanity within that team. And generally, if it wasn't for the music, sometimes I'd have just wanted to leave. Because it was horrible having to live with certain people. And, I'm also not the easiest of people to live with. Although I could honestly say to some of my old band members, when they say to me, oh, we used to make a great team, I could literally say, I used to make a great team for you, with you, but you didn't make it very easy to be a team. It takes two to be a team, really. And so I did spend a lot of my energy just making sure that some people haven't got tolerance and other people have, And so it takes you down to your very last nerves living with other people, in such a close community, working, living, eating, sharing the same friends and same kind of places and everything, moving from place to place, having the same stories to tell from different angles. It becomes this very tribal or family-like, very, very tribal. You'll be drinking together and talking together, and obviously people who come in from the outside, that would be absolutely necessary for the group. And the group wasn't just the band, it was the band and friends and family and everybody else connected. And I see in society that that's going to be something that people don't have a great deal of experience with. They can generally meet at their workplace and have kind of a superficial relationship with people, if you know what I mean. You probably know it yourself. I know it. My relationship with people in shops or the supermarkets, it's kind of very distant, and they're almost in like this robot suit, cyborg thing. I'm at work. Talk to me after work. So your corporate capacity. And so it's only when people are like, when they get home after work, they're generally not themselves, because, well, we're not ourselves, because we're just so worn out from the old slave system. And so people are never really get a chance to shine, and especially not with each other. And then at the point where you're sitting in a tribe and you've got a group of, say, 10, 20 people, then there's a certain group dynamic, and you realise that you've got a place in that group, and you might not be very skilled, but even just, peeling a potato or collecting firewood or something simple really plays an equally big part in a team. Some of the people that I've thought of most necessary in the teams don't particularly do that much. They usually keep up good spirits. Things I like from team members was like honesty. Not even loyalty, really, and I do like it when people don't let me down. But they usually, when they're honest, and I ask them before, they'll tell me honestly whether they're going to keep the word or not. So I know whose levels of what level. Sun's in my eyes. And in the team, people who think of others and stuff is really important. There might be something in the kitchen, the washing up to do. And other people will think, yeah, it's always been done before. There's a magic team ghost, team spirit that comes and does it. And it's that team spirit that can damage a team, Because everybody kind of gets the idea that somebody else is going to do that thing. And it is usually with simple jobs as well, like washing up and cleaning toilets, watering plants, with all these silly things really, and it's things that rub on the nerves with groups. And it might sound stupid, but in a way, they're the reasons why we have trouble living together as a tribe, as communities. And at this time in the world, I feel it's absolutely essential that we start to get used to each other being friends and helping each other. And it's going to be the only currency when money collapses, if the financial system collapses, the only currency we've got left really is your skills and your trustworthiness. Because if you then go to your neighbour and you want to swap something, obviously it's all going to be based on trust. And at this moment we don't really trust each other. Well, I mean, I trust people, but would agree we haven't got a great deal of trust for one another. We haven't got a lot of faith in one another. And you can see why. But as I've mentioned on other videos, I have got a lot of faith in individuals. I've trusted individuals with all sorts. And others have said, oh, you wouldn't want to trust him, or he's a funny one, or she's a bit... But I've trusted these people and they've kept their word with me. And I think that's because I was just direct and open and honest with them. Okay, some people did break certain promises, as soon as they got with other people, that trust was like then undermined. It's like keeping one's word, to keep your word. When for me, it's really important to keep my word, for me. I think for others too. But other people don't care if another one breaks his word to somebody else, if you know what I mean. They don't care, for example, if I says, oh, I promised John I'd go. And then Timmy would say, well, it doesn't matter about John. He won't care. Break your word. Because it's not Timmy's word that's been broken, it's yours. So he don't care about your word like his own, sort of thing. But I'm rambling and babbling. But the point of it being is that we've very lost touch with this tribal part of ourselves. When I go into the supermarket, I see these people that are kind of wearing a strange kind of persona. I sometimes like the woman at the checkout to just say, I'm sick of it. I'm sick and tired of it. Give us your stuff and get out of here. Have a good day. I've had enough. I suppose a lot of people wouldn't like that. But this time in my life, I'm kind of getting scared that, the checkout woman's going to be replaced for a cyborg, and I won't notice because, I keep going in and she looks a little bit like disturbed by sat there for so long, which I can understand, but at least she meets people, unlike other people working in factories. And she sat there and she has to put on this kind of cyborg persona, otherwise she'd just scream. So it's hello, thank you, hello, thank you, sort of thing. I mean, they are replacing them in a lot of countries with just machines, so you don't even get your robot. Thing is, the supermarket can only afford to install robots because the people have been working for the supermarkets for so long that the cashiers actually replace themselves with robots, but obviously they don't get the money that the robot would earn for their job. So we've got to be careful. I think there's a massive danger that we let the robots take over by us being too robotic. I don't know. But in a tribe, you can't all go acting the same. Otherwise, you've got this, everybody doing the same thing. And it's about tolerance for others, and about being honest and talking to certain members in the tribe. but not about other members really, unless it's going to come out in the open, you know. But yeah, I'm just going on now, mate. Okay, so let's love thy neighbour. Have a nice time. Cheerio.